Hey everyone, Dr. Stein here, and welcome to the Season 3, Week 4 match analysis of the DDL. As I've mentioned in the video prior, we will be doing a compressed, shorter version of the match analysis this week and focusing a little more on the awards this time around, for the sake of editing and trying to catch up. Thank you once again for your patience, and with that out of the way, let's continue on with the match analysis. To start us off, we have DPAV versus Will. Unfortunately, early game does not go very well for our friend DPAV, as he switches in on a resisted Ivy Cudgel, although it is a crit, taking him under half health, followed by a head smash miss next turn, which would have undoubtedly taken out that Ogre Pawn. Now this Embor is forced to live up to its name that DPAV has forsakingly given it, and at least take out this Ogre Pawn with a Flare Blitz while dying to its own recoil. The rest of this match does not get any easier for DPAV, as Will strategically plays around all the heavy hitters and threats on DPAV's side, and also showing off a very interesting set with his, what we can only assume to be his favorite berry this season, Custard Berry on the Hydreigon, and a Trick Lagging Tail set on the Bronzong. As we get to late game, we see this Toxtricity get off a shift gear, and later a special attack raise via Throat Spray, and proceeds to end the game with Terra Normal Boom Burst, resulting in Will winning week 4, 4-0. Next up, we have Lou versus Justin. A very interesting match consisting of an interchange of critical hits, some mattering more than others. However, this was nothing compared to the crazy turn 1 we had, with Darkrai landing a raw 60% accurate Hypnosis on this Galvantula, opening up the game very much in Lou's favor. At turn 3, we see Lou get in his Skarmory, sets up spikes, and starts whirlwinding his opponent's Pokemon to get Chip via spikes, and we actually also get to see him drag in the Iron Hands, use up his Grassy Seed, whirlwind him out again, allowing the Grassy Seed consumption to go to waste, getting rid of a much needed +1 defense that would surely have benefited his Iron Hands. Turn 12, we get a glimpse of the first crit of the game with the Iron Tusk going for an Ice Spinner on the Rillaboom switch in, resulting in a critical hit that KOs this Rillaboom at 78% health. While I haven't done any damage calcs, seeing that this Great Tusk was leftovers later on in the game, I can only assume that this was a more defensive variant of Great Tusk, meaning that even at 78% health, that Ice Spinner should have left it at very low health at most. So I would say this was a crit that very much mattered for Justin. A few turns later, we get to see some interesting tech on Lou's side with a beat up Pheasantibity on this Espathra. Thanks to beat up having consistent hits depending how many members are on the team, we see him get 5 hits off, with the 4th activating the Toxic Chain ability. However, Toxic Poison does take some time to accumulate, and Lou has to sacrifice a Mon to be able to cleanly get in the Raging Bolt to revenge kill with a Thunderclap. Turn 19, we see Justin get a revenge crit via Triple Axle with the Protean Meowscarada, getting a crit on the first hit of that Triple Axle, which would have been huge had he been able to land the following 2 hits. However, only landing one, the Raging Bolt lives, is able to get a Draco Meteor off, doing considerable damage to this Meowscarada. However, Lou takes advantage of this opportunity and switches out to conserve that Raging Bolt for endgame. Turn 22, we get to see Justin have his revenge crit for real this time, as it does take out the Great Tusk with an Ice Punch. However, considering that the turn prior, the Great Tusk did go for a Headlong Rush, I'm not sure how much it mattered considering it did get a defense drop from it. The end of the match follows with Pheasantibity taking out the Iron Hands with a U-turn, outspeeding it, and Raging Bolt getting a Thunderclap on what I can only assume is a choice-locked Meowscarada, resulting in Lou winning 3-0 for week 4. Up next, we have Frozone vs Finley. The first couple of turns involve both sides switching out and getting chip damage on one another. Frozone early on is able to get up Stealth Rocks, reducing the amount of free switch-ins that Finley has. Around turn 10, things start to get interesting as Hawlucha comes in and Frozone reveals a substitute Swords Dance set. Finley's Pelipper consistently tries to get rid of this substitute. However, seeing that his turns of reign is coming to an end, Finley is forced to switch out into his defensive Clodsire. Unfortunately for Finley, that substitute is still up, allowing Frozone one more free turn to get Swords Dance, resulting in a one-hit KO via dual wing beat on this Clodsire. With this defensive wall out of the way, the game truly opens up for Frozone, allowing Fortress to pick up the following KOs: Garganical, Lowland Persian, and Arcaladon. Oh, and Zangoose does get a kill on the Pelipper. Cannot forget to mention that. The last remaining Mon on Finley's end is this Tinkaton, which decides to go all in, set up Swords Dance, and Terra Fairy. Now fully resistant to the body press, it still does take considerable damage from this Fortress. Finally taking the Fortress down, Dragobolt comes in for free and pulls off a Phantom Force and does take out the Tinkaton. I'd like to assume this was a banded Dragobolt set, considering the damage that U-turn did on that Garganical early on in the game. Regardless, this allows Frozone to beat Finley 4-0 on this week 4. Next, we have Maki vs Kyoma. And to be honest, I could probably sum up this match in 2 words. Focus, miss. The reality and jokes aside, turn 1 we have a focus miss via Thunderous on Kyoma's side. And later on, we see another very critical focus miss in front of this Ogerpon, which, although would not have KO'd it due to its sturdy ability, would have at least reduced it down to low HP. This allowed Ogerpon to get a free Swords Dance up and proceed to mow down Kyoma's team. While there was a good couple of back and forths on both sides, one cannot deny that these 2 misses definitely cost Kyoma the game. However, none of this is take away the victory that was well prepped on Maki's end. So congratulations to Maki for winning week 4, 3-0. Moving on, we have Harvey vs Spoots. Much like Lou vs Justin, this game also had its fair share of interesting exchanges. However, instead of crits, they were exchanging good plays and misplays. Some of the good plays involve a turn 1 knockoff from Scizor, getting rid of a Light Clay on the Corviknight with Reflect among its moves. Another good play would be some clean switch-ins on both sides, along with agility setup from both coaches, with Harvey's Infernape having a particularly interesting one, which included a weakness policy set. However, we're gonna move on now to the misplays, which involve Ursaluna going down in turn 4, an unfortunate Stone Axe miss, tricking a Toxic Orb on a Steel-type Pokemon, Dragon Dancing in front of the Mon that already outspeeds you at neutral speed, and finally, Poltergeisting a Mon that you already knocked off its item. However, even with all these misplays, it was a very entertaining match to watch, and it resulted in Harvey winning his week 4 match 3-0. Our last match of the week is Dusty vs Beamer. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's a match like this one where it really pains me to have to make a much smaller, more condensed version of this match highlights. So many twists and turns, with an ending that leaves you on the edge of your seat. Very early on, we get to see a very hype set from Dusty's end, with a Custap Berry Annihilate, and during a Spirit Break from an Iron Valiant, guaranteeing that not only lived, but it got a +2 attack boost. from Defiant, allowing it to move first and take out such a huge threat early on in this match. However, we see Beamer not let this affect his gameplay, as for the next couple of turns, he starts making plays of his own. From revenge killing the Annihilate, to setting up stealth rocks, making a double switch out move, allowing him to get a free KO on one of Dusty's Mons. We also see a very similar set return this week on this Hoopa Unbound, with a Calm Mind Key Berry, not only raising its special attack, but also raising both its special and physical defense. This allows this Hoopa Unbound to survive a Sucker Punch from this King Gambit and KOing it in the process. Almost forgot to mention that Beamer at some point does get a one-hit KO knockout via crit Raging Bull on the Gardevoir. As we get to endgame, Dusty's last remaining Mon is a Terra Dragon Flygon at 23% health. Presumably scarfed, it outspeeds the Raging Bull, taking it out with a Draco Meteor. However, Beamer's last Mon is a Kilowattrel at 100% health. With a -2 special attack drop from the previous Draco Meteor, it only reduces it down to 33% health. However, Beamer goes for a Volt Switch instead of any other more powerful move, and only takes this Flygon down to 2% health, allowing Dusty to outspeed, thanks to the Choice Scarf, next turn, landing the Draco Meteor and taking out the Kilowattrel, with Dusty barely winning this week's match on 2% health. So congratulations to Dusty. And that concludes our analysis for this week's matches. We will now be moving on to our weekly awards, starting with Set of the Week. I have to be honest, this week was the hardest, absolute hardest, to pick only 3 for this category. I was this close to raising it to top 5. However, I need it to be true and I need it to be strict. However, please, please, please give a warm round of applause to our honorable mentions. And our honorable mentions for Set of the Week are Shift Gear Throat Spray Toxtricity, Beat Up Toxic Chain Serendipity, Agility Cleavor, and Agility Weakness Policy Infernape. And with these honorable mentions out of the way, let's now move on to our official nominees for Set of the Week. Third place goes to a Monin coach who I unfortunately did overlook last week. However, this week it had much more of an impact, and I'm talking about Beamer and his Key Berry Calm Mind set on his Hoopa Unbound. This week the Key Berry did so much more than last week, allowing it to live a Sucker Punch from the King Gambit and allowing Beamer to take out a very scary endgame Mon. Second place will go to Frozone in his Substitute Swords Dance set on his Hawlucha. This set was huge, forcing Finley to switch out and allowing Frozone to set up enough Swords Dances to one-hit KO such a defensive wall that was Clodsire, allowing Frozone to continuously wear down the rest of Finley's team. And finally, we have Dusty with his Custap Berry Endure Annihilate. So congratulations to Dusty for winning Set of the Week. Moving on, we have Play of the Week. And our nominees are Lou, Spoods, and Beamer. Third place will go to Spoods and setting up Agility for his Cleavor. After looking at the speed tiers of Harvey's team, Cleavor after Agility actually outsped his entire team. While not guaranteeing any one-hit KOs per se, this still would have allowed Spoods to get max damage on everything, including possibly taking out that Infernape that switched in. Second place will go to Beamer, and his double switch out from Terapagos to his Paldean Tauros Blaze, which allowed him to take out the Mew. In first place goes to Lu in his turn 1 Hypnosis on that Galvantula. This was huge for a number of reasons, which I didn't go into detail before. But essentially, by landing this Hypnosis, 3 things happened. Or at least for me, 3 things happened. 1. Lu denied Sticky Webs. 2. Lu denied free damage, whether it be Thunderbolt or Bug Buzz, from this Galvantula. And lastly, because of Darkrai's ability, Bad Dreams activated, getting damage off this Galvantula, getting rid of a potential Focus Sash that it could have been carrying. So for those reasons, Lu in his turn 1 Hypnosis gets Play of the Week for week 4. Up next, now we have Fail of the Week, and we have 2 honorable mentions. The first being Deepav in his first turns with Emboar. Unfortunately, he switched into a crit Ivy Cudgel, which although resisted, still did considerable damage, and missing the head smash was huge, seeing as he could have saved that Emboar to probably take out the Bronzong. In our other honorable mention is Justin in his Meowscarada only landing 1 hit from that triple axle. For sure that triple axle would have taken out that Raging Bolt had all 3 hits connected, considering the first one was a crit. However, the other 2 did not connect, allowing Lu to keep that Raging Bolt alive, save it for endgame to clean up for a win. And our nominees for Fail of the Week are Kioma, Harvey, and Beamer. Third place will go to Kioma in his Focus Misses. Unfortunately, not once but twice did Focus Miss activate this week for Kioma. However, in the play for Ogerpon, I truly believe that either Volt Switching or even Dark Pulsing to get some extra chip, or maybe a Protean Ice Beam Greninja to come in would have been best. However, they were unfortunate misses and Kioma gets 3rd place. Second place will go to Harvey. And for both Dragon Dancing in front of a Mon that was naturally faster than him, that already had +1 speed, mind you, and Poltergeisting a Mon that he already knocked off its item turn 1. I'm pretty sure that Harvey was probably in the heat of the moment and probably forgot that as early as turn 1, Corviknight no longer had its item held. However, regardless, it was funny to see, took free damage, essentially, until finally taking out the Corviknight, but this just, both plays were pretty, they were pretty funny to watch. They were definitely fails that could have been avoided. Probably would have allowed Harvey to win this game in a much more favorable point differential. But regardless, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And that leaves first place for Fail of the Week to Beamer on his last turn, Volt Switching on the Flygon. As I mentioned in the match analysis, had he clicked any other more powerful turn, whether it be Thunderbolt or Air Slash, even Thunderbolt, although resisted, it still does more damage than Volt Switch, he would have won this match. It was very unfortunate, considering we're halfway through this league and this was the closest Beamer ever got to a victory. And to come so far, only to play second once again. I'm sorry, Beamer, but this week, you win Fail of the Week. Moving on to our more fun category here, we have Nickname of the Week. And this week's nominees are Deepav, Brozone, and Beamer. Third place will go to Deepav and his Dishonor the Emboar. Funny enough, this Emboar did bring Dishonor this week. Not by choice, but by RNG. Second place will go to Beamer and his BBO Drizzy the Mamoswine. I found this to be extremely funny, laughed when I saw it, and that's really all it is. Just gave me a really good chuckle. because you cannot deny that mammoth thick. And our first place goes to Frozone. Once again, in his religious man, the Halucha. I'm going to say this again. He cannot keep getting away with this. Religious man? A Nacho Libre reference? On one of my favorite Pokemon of all time? Come on, I'm sorry. I try, I promise you guys. I try not to be biased. But when something this perfect comes up, my lord, I cannot resist. So congratulations to Frozone to winning once again a Nickname of the Week award. And finally, we have our Game of the Week award. And this week's nominees are Lou vs. Justin, Harvey vs. Spoods, and Dusty vs. Beamer. Third place will go to Lou vs. Justin. This was a very entertaining match to see crits come out from both sides, as I mentioned in the match analysis, some mattering more than others, but it was also interesting seeing the different techs involved on Lou's end, including the beat up Pheasantipity. Second place will go to Harvey vs. Spoods. Now this match had a little more entertainment factor for me due to the fact of the misplays I saw throughout the match. Very funny to see, especially as the match drew closer to an end, and much like Lou vs. Justin, very entertaining sets to see overall as well. And lastly, this week's Game of the Week will go to Dusty vs. Beamer. From beginning to end, we saw great strats from both ends. Both coaches really gave it their all this week, and it literally came down to the wire on 2% health on this Flygon, winning it all and landing those Draco Meteors on top of that. So congratulations to both Dusty and Beamer for winning this week's Game of the Week. And that concludes our weekly award segment. We will now be moving on to the Week 4 standing. Here at Week 4, we have Frozone at first place, Lou at second, Will at third, Harvey at fourth, despite having an extra win differential record, Justin at fifth, Spoos at sixth, a tie between Finley and Dusty for 8th place, Kioma at 9th, Maki at 10th, Deepav at 11th, and last place going to Beamer. We have a particularly interesting standing list here, seeing as Dusty, Kioma, and Maki have a chance to shoot themselves out of the red, as long as for the rest of the season they have more wins than losses. As for Deepav and Beamer, all they can do is no longer lose any more matches, or go for some extremely big wins with some 6-0s. We will now go on to announce our schedule for Week 5. For Week 5, we have Maki vs. Deepav, Finley vs. Harvey, Will vs. Dusty, Kioma vs. Lou, Justin vs. Spoods, and Beamer vs. Frozone. And that concludes this week's match analysis. As a reminder, I would like to ask each and every one of you watching to please leave a comment down below regarding to which version you prefer of me doing these match analysis videos. Did you prefer my first 2 weeks, where I took my time explaining each match bit by bit, doing play-by-plays? Or did you prefer these last 2 match analysis, where I went through each match in a more condensed, highlighted version, going over specific plays and focusing more on the awards? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as your comments will decide how I do these match analysis videos moving forward. With that mentioned, thank you very much to everybody who watched this video to the end, and also for leaving your comments down below. I hope to see you all next week. Until then, I'm Dr. Stein, and this has been another match analysis video. Peace.